The forest loomed before us, its canopy a twisted tapestry of shadows and leaves. The air was heavy with an unsettling silence, broken only by the faint rustle of small creatures scurrying through the underbrush. I felt a shiver run down my spine as our group of hikers approached the forest's edge, the trees seeming to close in around us like sentinels guarding a dark secret. The trees grew taller and closer together here, their trunks gnarled and twisted with age. The canopy overhead was a dense, emerald green, filtering the sunlight into a dim, eerie glow. Our group leader, a seasoned hiker named Sarah, consulted her map, her brow furrowed in concern. As we ventured deeper into the forest, I noticed that my compass was spinning wildly, its needle quivering back and forth like a trapped animal. I felt a creeping sense of unease as I watched the needle spin, the numbers blurring together in a maddening dance. Sarah seemed oblivious to the problem, but the other hikers were starting to glance at their own compasses, their faces reflecting growing concern. The forest was quiet, except for the sound of leaves crunching beneath our feet. The air was cold and damp, with a faint scent of decay hanging over us like a miasma. I shivered, despite my jacket, and wondered if we'd made a mistake by coming here. As we walked, the silence grew thicker, like a living thing that was watching us. I felt eyes upon me, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. Sarah's map seemed to be leading us deeper into the forest, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being led astray. The trees seemed to be closing in around us, their branches tangling overhead like skeletal fingers. I stumbled, my foot catching on a hidden root, and regained my balance with a jolt. Sarah's voice was calm, but I could sense a growing edge of worry beneath her words. We stopped for a break, our breath misting in the chill air. I consulted my compass, and it spun wildly once more, refusing to settle on a direction. The other hikers were starting to glance at their own compasses, their faces reflecting growing unease. As we prepared to continue, I noticed that one of the hikers, a young woman named Emily, was missing. We searched the surrounding area, calling out her name, but there was only silence. Sarah's face was pale, her eyes scanning the forest as if she expected to see Emily emerge from the trees at any moment. I felt a growing sense of dread as we continued on, the silence closing in around us like a trap. The trees seemed to be watching us, their branches swaying in an unnatural rhythm. I stumbled again, my foot catching on a hidden root, and this time I didn't regain my balance. The forest seemed to be shifting around us, the trees rearranging themselves in a maddening dance. I felt disoriented, as if I was trapped in a nightmare from which I couldn't awaken. Sarah's voice was distant, her words incomprehensible as the forest seemed to close in around us. And then, in an instant, everything went dark. I stumbled, my foot catching on something solid, and as I looked down, I saw that we were standing on the edge of a precipice, the ground dropping away beneath us into an endless void. But it was what I saw on the other side of the void that made my blood run cold. Standing on the edge of the chasm, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, was Emily. And beside her, holding her hand, was Sarah. They were smiling, their faces twisted into grotesque grins, and as I watched in horror, they turned and began to walk away, disappearing into the trees as the forest seemed to swallow us whole.